Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your Master of Ceremonies, Doug Keeley.
Good morning, everyone. Oh, come on. All right, here's what I'm going to say, how ya all doing? So we're going to pretend it's Texas, and you're going to go, great A, and pretend it's Toronto. Got it? How y'all doing? That was really good, much better. Thanks to the Intercontinental for a great reception last night. And they're going to be on stage. That was really well done. So let me pick up where I left you. How many of you were here yesterday? Most of you. OK, great. So we talked about what it's like to envision something new. We talked about inspiring and being inspired. And we talked about the simple idea of elevating your performance. And I put to you the notion that coming to a conference like this, you should come with the intent of leaving different than when you arrived. That if you don't change as a result of any event, then you probably haven't gotten the most out of the event, and the event, I would put to you, probably hasn't done you a good service. So I believe you can get inspiration from absolutely anywhere, and I'm going to kick the morning off by telling you a quick little story about how that works and how you can change how you innovate just by changing how you see. How many of you have ever had a flat tire in your car? So not a fun experience, especially in winter on the 401. Changing tires in a car, the pit stop, is a very important strategic part of any motor sport, because the time that it takes to do that, obviously, is part of your cumulative time, so the idea is to do it fast as possible. This is what a pit stop looked like in 1950 at the Indianapolis 500. Here we go.
But Holland comes in for a pit stop. Time to refuel and change tire. Lou Moore himself changes the tire.
Hanging in the air at the top.
Only 4 crew members, including the driver, are allowed to work on the car.
There we go.
It's a tense time. Holland stays in his seat, anxious to get away. Let's watch.
I want to know if Bucky in the top there actually put that nut on the wheel in the first place, because he might not have hit it so many times. So we got a guy now handing water to the driver while a different guy fuels. He goes away. Oh, that wasn't enough water. I'm not sure why they didn't use a larger cup. A little bit of duplication. We've got one tire off now. Young man, guy in the middle is cleaning the windshield, not doing a good enough job, so the second guy comes in to clean the windshield. The second tire is about to go on. We're scrubbing the bugs off that shield up there. Oh, need a clean cloth. Come back. Do it all over again.
A crewman polishes the windshield as Holland moves away just 67 seconds after he stopped.
Now, to me, that was a bit amusing to watch as an example of teamwork, but 67 seconds, if you get a flat tire on the 401 in February and you can get that puppy changed in 67 seconds, you're going to be a happy camper, right? 25 years later, this is what something very similar looked like. Now, this guy actually has a flat. So here's what's interesting to me about the team. There's some guys in yellow, there's 2 guys in blue, and there's also a guy at the top with a red hat in black and white. Not quite sure who's doing what. But off he goes, 20 seconds. So in just 25 years, they've taken the time from 67 seconds to 20 seconds. That's a pretty decent productivity improvement, regardless of what your business is, right? Here's the same thing done last year by the Ferrari team. Those are the guys you want in the back seat in February, right? All 20 of them. So if you had asked in 1950 the guys at that Indy crew whether they could take 97% out of their time, they would have told you that's impossible, right? They would have said it's not possible to do that. Now, there was the addition of some technology hydraulics. And the hydraulics absolutely had an impact. But more interesting to me was that they changed the thinking around what it takes to do that. What they did was, number one, they added people, and then number two, they gave everyone one role, and one role only. They changed the thinking around what a pit crew does to become a much more strategic part of a race. The pit crew rehearses that over and over and over and over and over. What I love about athletes and entertainers is that they're the only class of human beings that I know of that rehearse what they do more often than doing it in front of their customers. They rehearse it more than they actually do it for real. In business, it's the opposite, right? Especially with PowerPoint, people say, I got a deck, and they get up and just wing it, right? So they changed the thinking. The pit crew goes to the gym now with the drivers because they think we have to be in as good mental and physical condition as the person behind the wheel does. So they changed the thinking. Flip that over to the event business. The Ormond Street Children's Hospital in London, England was having a horrible time with handoffs between neonatal unit and parts of their unit, between intensive care, surgery, and so on. They were having big problems. Children were dying. They were getting mishaps. So the two leaders of the surgical team at that hospital went to Italy to Ferrari because they were both Formula One fans, and they were taught by the Ferrari team how to do handoffs, how to do teamwork under that kind of pressure. The Ferrari team came and videotaped with them what went on in the hospital. They put those into practice. They cut incidents by over 50% in 3 months by simply changing how they're thinking. So back to why we're all here today. An opportunity here to change how you see the world, the lens through which you see it, and to put that into action to elevate your performance. And we're lucky this morning, we've got two incredible ladies from the world of advertising and creative thinking who are going to tell us, give us some tips on how to do that. Before we do that, I'm going to introduce a few sponsors. First of all, from Vancouver, it's a pleasure to introduce Michelle Taylor, who's the Manager, Meeting and Convention Sales, and Michelle Drake, who's the Director of Sales for Canada and International at from Vancouver Tourism, and Katie Moore from the Vancouver Convention Center. I had to read that. Like, if you thought I could memorize that, not a chance. So please welcome our guests from Vancouver. How are you? While they're seating, I'm just going to do a quick announcement. If you have lost anything, or if you find anything that's not yours that you think's lost, as opposed to taking something out of someone's pocket deliberately, if you find it sitting somewhere, please hand it into the registration desk down at the corner before you turn left there. And if there are any items left over at the end of the event, they'll be handed into the MTCC, so you can go get them there. It's now a pleasure to introduce Yola Marshall. She's the Director of Commercial Delivery Canada for the Intercontinental Hotel Group. Thanks for the great party last night. Please welcome Yola. Thank you. Okay, to introduce our absolutely incredible keynote speakers this morning, it's a pleasure to introduce the absolutely fabulous Jean-Marie Robillard from National Speakers Bureau. Talk about a thorn between two roses, holy moly. So we're going to do questions. I'm going to start with a question. Or a comment. R.A. Dickey famously this year said, "It's amazing what you can achieve when no one cares who gets the credit." And an observation about you is, I know you were both instrumental in the Shreddies campaign, but Hunter gets the credit. He's the guy who became, the rock star. And so how do you create an environment where people are worried about their careers or thinking about traditional career advancement, and yet you need to create a place where it's as egoless as possible?
The Shreddies example, again, is a great reference point for me when you ask that question, which is to say, I can tell you that the more senior people we're not totally loving that the intern cracked the big project. And when we said, and you're going to work with him and help him, it was not like, yay, I can't wait, great, this guy who just showed me up. But what we showed that the senior people that worked with him in partnership is that, you know what, everybody wins.
Right.
Everybody wins. Your names are all on this. And every senior person that worked on that with him, that was a springboard for them as well. It wasn't just a springboard for the summer interns. So we just preached to our group, collaboration is the model that works. The hero model does not work. Don't be chasing the credit. Be chasing, contributing everything you can towards success, towards a successful outcome, and everything will fall into place. So as creative leaders, we became their advocates, and we said, you know what, it's way better for us to be saying how great you are.
Yes.
Let us help you find your success. No need to be like in the spotlight by yourself.
Okay, so I'm going to throw this out to anyone who wants it, but I'm going to ask you a question when I throw it, because I have one other. Risk and failure. So I know from Shreddies and Dove. Dove, you had a client who wanted to, like they were afraid of the brand, but she said, this could be as great as Nike. Can I talk about Neil Diamond? No?
Yes, you can.
And I know, and the Shreddy story is they actually signed Neil Diamond up to be the spokesperson for this, and the client said it's too big an idea or whatever. You explain what happened. So, but the point of the question is, what happens when you got a client who just doesn't want to take a chance? Either of you.
That's every day. So I'm going to say we were very, very fortunate in the Dove situation, and what happened on Shreddies. Again, we were lucky. We were lucky because that brand was in trouble. So big problems are your friend. When people are desperate, you can't believe what an opportunity that is. And but a client who just doesn't want to go there is somebody that you need to really work with over time. Nobody's just diving in the pool with you at the deep end and they know nothing about you and they don't know if you can swim. But if you talk to them and get to know them and hang out with them and understand what motivates them, we expended, years of our lives just trying to understand how to move a client from here to here. And sometimes they really were quite quick to change because they could see, and they also saw that we weren't in it for us. Advertising is a notoriously, self-involved industry. And if they believed that we were doing it because we wanted to be famous, that was the end of that story. As long as they truly, truly believed we were in it for their own good, and they came to trust us as people, and they knew that we were there for them, over time, many, many people got to places that you would never imagine they would have gone to. And of course, they're always the ones who you're never going to change. But the majority of them can move.
And the first kind, fire them. The ones who won't change, fire them.
They-
Fire the client.
That's a choice you can make always.
Who would like this? Can I, if I throw it, I don't want to hurt you. Nice catch. Well done. All right. R.A. Dickey.
I'm just curious if you can tell us what the growth was for Shreddies and have they maintained it?
Shreddies had absolutely spectacular growth. It was really, really dramatic and immediate. And they, interestingly, now I don't work at Ogilvy anymore, so I don't have any access to knowing what their sales results are today. But I can tell you at the time it was amazing. And Kraft makes Shreddies, and they were so blown away by how successful it was, and they recognized that it did not look like a Kraft campaign. And they had us speak all over the world to their people about what happened, and how can we replicate that? And since then, they've been much bolder in taking more chances in their advertising.
Do we have any questions online? I see your hand up there.
There goes the audio guy. There goes the audio guy trying to get me up. There we go. There we go. Okay, we've got a question from Jojo, and Jojo's question is, remind us how we can implement your ideas as meeting planners.
We would just suggest that anybody who wants to use that technique, by the way, the idea generation technique, can use it to solve any problem of any kind. So highly, highly recommend that, even working by yourself with it, but even better with a team of up to 5 people, can be amazing at kickstarting the idea generation process in this way. It's also a great process to use when you get stuck or when you're sent back to the well. That idea didn't fly with my client. You're all demotivated and demoralized. When you go back to that technique to reset and restart, it's a great way to get back up on the horse and get to a whole new round of fresh thinking that, who knows, might have been better than what you suggested in the first place. Beyond that technique, I know that was only part of what we talked about. We hope that we were bringing mindfulness around the barriers to our creativity, and we really would believe that if you can be aware of those landmines in the road and try these other tips, you're going to get to great outcomes, and much interestingly, I think you'll find much faster than you might normally have had an experience doing.
Can I add something to that, which is, it actually goes back to the previous question, but I think it has a bearing on this as well, which is the how do you work together, how do you move clients to places they don't want to go, and that kind of thing. Nancy mentioned that on the Diamond Shreddies example that we had a client actually come in and participate. One of the things that we all do, I think, is that we stick to our role, we stick to our discipline, we stick to our company, and in fact, the more we ignore the boundaries between nations, the more we invite people to participate at an early stage and share thinking at an early stage and do the kind of brainstorming that we did with you, but with a group, maybe have somebody from your client's office come in and do that with you, or have any of the different partners that are really important to the outcome come in and do that with you. It's so intensely team building, and people stop being afraid of it because they already invested in it, right? Part of them is in it from the beginning, and that makes a huge difference to where you land as well.
Yes. If you turn around, you're going to catch a mic. I think we're out of time after your question.
I'll do a quick one.
No rush.
You're in advertising, so the campaign you came up with was very creative for Dove, for example, but you did it from an advertising point of view. You didn't touch the project, didn't change the packaging, didn't change anything about it. If I put it in the perspective of the lens of events, for example, I'm in event marketing. We do the campaigns and everything. We can come up with the most creative ones, but the product that we're selling, which is the event, the program, the experience and all that, has to also live up to what we're promising. So what advice do you give for planners or association putting this event together, so they also have to do their part to kind of deliver, to get a success, all-around success?
I think that's partly a conversation, a bit of what I was talking about before, like what would make this the best it could possibly be? And invite other people to be part of that dialogue. In the case of Dove, we did actually get involved in things beyond the advertising, and we weren't always successful, right? You don't always win. I wish I could promise you that we're giving you a magic wand to wave, but we're not. But the earlier you start having the conversation, so you have a client who comes to you and this is what they want to do, you can see that there might be a more effective way to tell their story, or you see that they have this story they want to tell, but if they just shifted 5 degrees that way, it would blow the doors off. Working with them really closely and having those conversations, so what I was saying just about breaking down the barriers between the organizations creates such a bigger opportunity for those of us who are in a much more executional role.
And I have a thought for that, if I can give you. Work with great people, number one. So you hire and you encourage great people, right? That's a big part of your success as leaders. And secondly, we heard this from Chef Michael Smith last night. Consistently, this presentation and last night were both about take big risks. But what he talked about was the guest. Remember, he changed the lens from customer to guest. My experience is if you're focused on the success of the people in the audience, then any risk that's going to make that experience better is in a different lens. As opposed to if you've got a client who's thinking, oh, it's too risky, it's too big, we've never done that before. If it's focused on the customer, as you know, because that's what you did for a living. If you put it in the lens of the customer, and it's the best thing for the customer, it's really hard for people to argue with that. Like, how do you say, well, I don't care about the people sitting in the room? You can't, by any logic, do that. Okay, thank you very much. I'm afraid we got to call it. Nancy and Jana will be around to talk and ask questions. Thank you for that wonderful presentation. And none of this would be possible without the incredible technology and the crew at the back. If you're in the event business, you know Freeman. They've saved my butt more times or in more places around the world than I can tell you. And it's a pleasure to have Steve Burry from Freeman, who I've known for about 75 years. No, Steve and I are both only 23. We both know what a slide projector is. That's the scary part.
And how to use it.
Yeah, Steve Burry from Freeman, folks. Thank you, Freeman. And to close out the morning, it's a pleasure to welcome from sponsor Event Moby, Madeline Bart. Come on up, Madeline, please.
You used to call me on my cell phone. Late night when you need my love. Call me on my cell phone. Late night when you need